Good morning, and thank you all for attending and for joining me here today. Alberta's government is absolutely and strongly committed to ensuring that our students are always learning from the best possible curriculum. In today's evolving world, it's critical that we update Alberta's curriculum to give students a strong foundation for a successful future. 8 months ago, we began a comprehensive engagement process to build a new, modern, and robust social studies curriculum. The process involved hearing from thousands of Albertans and hundreds of education partners from across the province. Today, I'm pleased to release Alberta's new kindergarten to grade 6 social studies curriculum, a new ministerial order on student learning, and a revised guiding framework for curriculum development. On March 14th, I released a draft of Alberta's kindergarten to grade 6 social studies curriculum, and I asked all Albertans to provide us with their feedback. And I want to take an opportunity to thank the many parents, teachers, and other interested Albertans who provided their thoughts. We received a total of 2,900 responses since March 14th, and of course, we heard a variety of comments. We did hear positive comments about increased emphasis placed on Indigenous peoples and histories, the increased emphasis on history and educating students about the importance of democracy, and we also heard positive comments on including additional content to help our students become active and responsible citizens. Of course, we also heard that there were some areas for improvement. Specifically, we heard that some grades might have too much content, and that some content may need to be moved to later grades. We also heard that more can be done to strengthen critical thinking skill development, and that more can be done to promote an understanding of diversity across Canada and around the world. We have listened, and we've taken this feedback to help make changes. For example, some content that was originally in grade 2, such as taxes, has now been moved to grade 5. The total amount of content found in some grades, such as in grade 4, has been reduced to respond to concerns around content load. Furthermore, additional First Nation, Métis, Inuit, and Francophone content and perspectives have been included. And in addition, content around racism, anti-racism, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia have also been added. Significant changes were also made to strengthen the development of critical thinking skills. When developing curriculum, there's a range of possible learning outcomes that can be used to demonstrate a student's level of understanding. At the lower end, students are asked to recall and memorize. And at the higher end, students are asked to evaluate and create. After revisions, the amount of outcomes that ask students to recall and remember information has been significantly reduced in favor of outcomes that promote higher learning. Asking students to memorize less information and rather apply that information will ensure that students are given the opportunity to build essential critical thinking skills. Students will be empowered to ask questions, form conclusions, and engage in active learning that will help make sure they grow into powerful, lifelong learners. I am confident that the revised version incorporates constructive feedback and sets our students up for success. As part of the curriculum engagement process, Alberta Education also gathered feedback to update the ministerial order on student learning and the guiding framework for the design and development of curriculum. The new ministerial order focuses on career education, knowledge and skill development, educational programming, and preparing students to be active and engaged citizens. Revisions to the guiding framework includes content to align with the new curriculum. In terms of next steps, Alberta Education is now formally inviting all school boards to help us fine-tune the curriculum by piloting it this September. Piloting enables teachers and students to engage with the new curriculum and provide valuable feedback about how it works in the classroom. The piloting period will run from September of this year to June 2025, and school boards will have flexibility to determine how they are involved in piloting. This means that they can choose to pilot all or some of the draft curriculum. They can decide how many teachers will participate in the process and how many learning outcomes they will work with. Budget 24 has already set aside $34 million for this year to support curriculum implementation, and these funds will be available to school boards who choose to pilot. My department is also focused on ensuring the right resources are in place to assist piloting. Throughout the piloting process, teachers will be provided with the information and tools they need to work with the draft in their classrooms. This will include teacher release days to support planning, instruction, and preparation, learning and teaching resources, professional learning opportunities, and opportunities to provide feedback to Alberta education on the draft, including how it is being experienced in the classroom. In addition, teachers can access comprehensive learning and teaching resources and professional learning supports that are aligned with the draft curriculum, including subject-specific overviews, quick reference videos, illustrative examples, and fact sheets on new.learnalberta.ca. In the coming weeks, there will be more than 450 learning and teaching resources available in both English and French that are aligned to the draft K-6 social studies curriculum. Alberta Education will carefully consider all feedback for classroom piloting to finalize the new K-6 social studies curriculum before implementation. I encourage school authorities that would like to participate in classroom piloting to submit an expression to my department by May 15th. After piloting is completed and final adjustments are made, the new K-3 curriculum will become mandatory in all Alberta schools in September of 2025. Before closing, I'd like to take a moment to thank those thousands of Albertans who have helped shape the curriculum. From interested parents, to teachers, to multicultural community leaders and academics, thank you for your time, your feedback, and contributions. I know that not everyone may be happy with the new curriculum, and that's understandable. Albertans are diverse, and that means we have diverse views about our world, our history, and our politics. What I believe, though, is most important is that we take politics out of the classroom and focus on giving students a deep understanding of history, focus on equipping them with the tools to develop their own views and make up their own minds. Alberta's new social studies curriculum does precisely this. The new curriculum will help students understand and respect different cultures, build intercultural understanding, develop the foundations to become engaged and compassionate citizens, understand our complex history, and understand the way government works. They will learn to combat racism and understand foundational economic principles and the importance of First Nation, Métis, Inuit, Francophone histories and contributions. They will also learn the important distinction between facts, opinions, and learn to distinguish and compare primary and secondary sources. I'm confident Alberta students will now be better prepared to address our complex world and address future challenges with confidence. It's now my pleasure to hand things over to Adil with the Al Mustafa School to provide some remarks.
Thank you, Minister, for that introduction. My name is Adil Hassan. I am the Secretary-Treasurer for Al Mustafa Academy. We operate 2 accredited private schools with over 900 students in Edmonton. We have a diverse and robust school community that represent 50 different nationalities. I'm very pleased to see Alberta's government take further action in the fight against racism and Islamophobia in the new draft K-6 social studies curriculum. It is of the utmost importance that the lessons around embracing a society of multicultural communities and current and historic examples of discrimination is included in the classroom. The addition of content on discrimination and racism in grades 3 and 6 will help strengthen the future of Alberta. Understanding racism will empower students to take a stand against injustice and discrimination now and into the future. This will equip our children with the skills and abilities to recognize and address racism so they can help build healthier, safer communities where diversity is celebrated and valued. I am also pleased to see the content in grade 1 and 2 around multiculturalism to help build and strengthen students' tolerance and understanding of multicultural communities at a young age. Because we know that the foundation and identity of our province today is built off multiculturalism. Thank you. I'll now pass it over to Rohan. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Adil. I think that was very important what you said. The objective of education is more than helping our kids earn a living. And we truly believe that it is about nurturing them to be better citizens of this world. The world has changed, and the countries, provinces, and the cities that we live in have become more multicultural, global to speak to, and that includes our classrooms especially. We truly appreciate the government of Alberta, the Education Ministry, and that they are cognizant of the changing demographics and dynamics, and have proposed a curriculum which focuses on diversity. In these concerning times of social media influence and fake news and propaganda, we are glad that our schools and our education system are still the source of true information about various cultures and social structures, and they are grooming these tender minds. The diverse syllabus that we see now will definitely make sure that we are fighting racism, we are fighting Islamophobia, Hinduphobia, anti-Semitism, on all these concepts. The Canadian society, especially Albertans, are at the forefront of acknowledging the contributions of diverse cultures. In our case, the Hindus and the Indians. And me as a representative of 40+ organizations of Hindu origin and Indian origin in Alberta, my name is Rohan Sankhe and I'm from Calgary Marathi Association. We would like to thank Honorable Minister of Education for their time. Through continuous engagement and collaboration, they have demonstrated their commitment towards the future of our children through this new curriculum which is in place. We are excited about this pilot rollout and extend our full support to this revised curriculum. And we know that the Education Ministry and the board will continue to engage with us as a key stakeholder to achieve our goal of an inclusive new social studies curriculum. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're now going to do a question and answer for the minister. So we're just going to start with those who are here in the room. So if you have a question, please state your name, outlet, and keep it at one question, one follow-up. We'll go to Lisa, then Michelle.
Lisa Johnson, the Canadian Press. Sorry, I have an off-topic question. That's
No
what you
worries.
get for, sorry, Kevin.
Fire away.
Bill 18.
Yeah.
Have you consulted with school boards about what kind of impact that gatekeeping bill is going to have for federal school board funding agreements? I'm not sure how many federal agreements school boards have in this province even. Have you consulted with them on that?
Yeah, we've talked with them. There aren't many. There are some areas where federal funding is involved. We do set standards whenever there is any kind of partnership involved with the federal government with respect to outcomes and what we'd like to see with respect to support for students and outcomes for students. Those opportunities are quite limited and quite rare. We have heard some announcements about additional federal funding, specifically around nutrition. We haven't seen additional information about what that might look like, but we're talking with our federal counterparts to see what that would look like. We're hoping that can help to support and augment existing nutrition programs that we have already. Our school boards and other partners do an amazing job of providing nutrition programming to a range of different students. So we would like to see those funds be diverted to support existing programs rather than creating something different.
Yeah, just on that point, is it, you said we do set standards, so like currently the province is already involved in those agreements, or like how common or how rare is it for the Edmonton Public School Board to suddenly strike up a deal with, or get some kind of grant funding for something really specific?
It's less common. It's not something that you'll see, occur on a kind of daily basis. So it's really less common. But there are some isolated situations where school divisions do receive some funding from the federal government. And with coming back to standards, we will set standards with respect to the outcomes because, of course, we want to make sure that those dollars are going to support students. And primarily, one of the areas that we'll see some of that funding may be agreements with the federal government to support partnerships with First Nation, Métis, Inuit communities, or the support to strengthen support, I should say, for Indigenous Métis and Inuit students that school division may have, and of course we set broad standards as it relates to learning outcomes and objectives.
All right, Michelle.
So back in March, when you released the draft of this, of course, the curriculum development specialist group, the academics on there expressed grave concerns about the curriculum. You put out a public letter about it and said that your officials ignored their suggestions for the curriculum. How have you changed the curriculum, what we're seeing today, based on that kind of feedback? How does it meet their concerns?
Sure.
Does it meet their concerns?
Yeah, I think it moves the needle. Some of their concerns related to content in junior high and high school. So obviously, we haven't developed that content. I saw you kind of scratch your head on that. Just with respect to the letter, they talk about content in grade 7 and content in grade 10 and grade 12. So they did have some concerns around that. So I'm sure we'll be able to address that when we get to developing those grades. But they did specifically have some concern around learning outcomes, and they said that we can do more to strengthen learning outcomes that foster critical thinking skills. And they said that too many of the learning outcomes are focused on maybe recall and or memorization and lower level thinking. So we have absolutely taken that to heart, and there are now significantly less outcomes associated with lower level thinking than the March version. So we have absolutely taken their feedback in that regard, and happy to continue to do that.
So what do you say to parents that might be very concerned about this curriculum and still feel that it's maybe not up to par?
Well, I'm not sure in what specific area that it might not be up to par. I think, as I mentioned, Albertans are diverse and have diverse viewpoints. Some might say that there needs to be more history. Some might say there needs to be less history. Some might say there needs to be more Canadian content. Others might say there should be less. So, I guess what I would say to those parents is we are listening broadly. And I think we've tried to demonstrate our desire to listen. We had a survey back in October before we even started writing the draft. We got about 13,000 responses from Albertans, from parents, and we've used that to help inform how we draft the curriculum. So I guess I would say we're listening, and we want to be able to incorporate as many views as possible.
All right, Jonathan.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Nicolaides, Jonathan Bradley, Western Standard. So you spoke about there being notice of intent that the school boards have to fill out to apply to do the curriculum. How many school boards do you anticipate will participate in the pilot?
Yeah, hard to say how many I anticipate. We've received some early expressions of interests already from some school boards. So I anticipate we'll see a broad number that will help us pilot it in different school divisions across the province and with different student communities, which I think is the perfect mix so that we can make sure the curriculum rolls out in the right way for different communities.
You spoke about doing extensive consultations with parents, teachers, education partners. Why did you feel compelled to do such extensive consultations on the social studies curriculum?
Well, I think it's important. As I mentioned, there are a lot of diverse views when it comes to history, when it comes to politics, when it comes to government and society, and people have different views about what should be taught and when it should be taught. So I think it's important that we listen, and I think that's just good policy in any dynamic before you begin to develop policy, and especially as it relates to curriculum. And recognizing that people will always have diverse views. There's a friend of mine who's a professor at the University of Alberta and does a lot of work in early literacy, and he could go on for hours and hours and hours about the different academic theories related to early learning and which approach is best. So there's so many different views and opinions, and so I think we have to listen and use that to help us have a good head start.
Thank you.
Brianna Carson-Smith with Global News. Minister, you mentioned the piloting, and then you also, in response to Michelle's question, said that you'd be open to speaking with those professors again. So will there be more formal consultation, or are you just relying on what you learned from the piloting?
I think at this stage, interested to see what comes out of the piloting. Of course, if there's some burning desire to have some additional conversations with me, the door's always open. And I did meet with the group very recently, with the curriculum development specialist group very recently to hear firsthand some of their concerns. So my door's always open, and if anybody wants to give me a ring, schedule a meeting to talk in a little bit more detail, I won't say no.
And then just to follow up on Lisa's question about Bill 18, you were saying that it's not frequent that school boards are doing this, that it's isolated. So then why include school boards at all in Bill 18?
Yeah, well, obviously the legislation covers a provincially mandated organization. So obviously a school board or a school falls into that category. And there are instances, again, we are seeing the federal government now with the nutrition funding. So, part of the premise of Bill 18 is a worry of the federal government continuing to try and provide funding and intrude in areas that are exclusive provincial jurisdictions, such as in education. So, and we're seeing that happen with the nutrition because this is an area of exclusive provincial responsibility. So we want to make sure that those guardrails are up.
All right, we're going to head to the phone. So operator, can you please put through the first caller?
Madeline Cummings, BBC. Thanks. The word economic appears a lot throughout the curriculum and in the guiding documents as well, I think more than 30 times. And yet, looking at the results of the December survey engagement, it wasn't a top choice of Albertans to be emphasized. Can you explain the emphasis on economics in the K-6 curriculum?
Sure. Well, there's 5 streams that are covered. Economics, as you've mentioned, history, government, politics, geography, and citizenship, civics and citizenship. So it's important that all of these are covered and are addressed. I think the curriculum strikes the right balance. There are economic principles addressed through every grade. There are historical considerations covered in every grade. And I think there's a good balance of making sure all of those streams are covered.
And my follow-up, I noticed an absence of mentions of climate change in the curriculum. I see a mention of global warming in the subject guidelines, but nothing on wildfires, and I don't really see it in the science curriculum either. Why isn't climate change included more for the K-6 curriculum?
Sure, I'll have to go back. I'm not sure that global warming is referenced within the context of the social studies curriculum, but I'm quite confident that global warming and climate change are currently part of the elementary school science curriculum.
All right, operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Carly Robbins, City News.
Go ahead. No, maybe we lost them.
All right, operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Tim Birch, CTV.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Pretty simple one. What do you say to the parents, to the educators, to even some of the school boards who have accused this provincial government of politicizing the curriculum in the past?
I'd be curious to understand their perspective. I think our approach has been to take politics out of the classroom and give students a deep understanding of history to understand an evolving and complex world, and give students the skills that they need to be successful. And there's, as you can see through the revisions we're making today, not just in the social studies curriculum, but in the new ministerial order on student learning, to strengthen the development of skills that are essential for lifelong success, be they communication skills, critical thinking skills, and in other areas. So our objective is to make sure that students are presented the information in an unbiased way, without editorialization or opinion, and help them to form their own conclusions.
A follow-up?
Thanks. Yeah, my follow-up question is just, obviously we're going to pilot in September. It's going to be mandatory in September 2025. Realistically, how much could this curriculum change in that time based on, some of the feedback that you get in this upcoming school year?
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate to see major changes. Again, we've been we've been engaging since August of 23 so that, we could get a lot of those major changes done early. And there were constant conversations about, what should be taught and at what grade and what the focus of each individual grade should be. And we've had a significant amount of public consultation as well over the past 8 months. So I'm not sure that we've missed, that grade 5 is covering inappropriate content at this stage, or that grade 2 is covering inappropriate content at this stage. I think we've gotten the balance right there. So door's still open to minor modifications, additions, deletions. So I'd be absolutely happy to incorporate those.
Great. Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Alexander Diwali, Western Standard.
Alex Dollywell, Rebel News. So my first question is for the minister. So in the spirit of ensuring the updated K-6 social studies curriculum reflects a variety of perspectives, has your ministry or has your government considered a Chicago principles for K-6 students to facilitate safe spaces for all to support the free exchanges of ideas without fear of persecution?
Sure. We haven't incorporated specifically the Chicago principles, but there is content in elementary. Of course, as I mentioned, there's a stream that focuses specifically on civics and citizenship. And so under that stream, students do learn about the importance of civic participation and active citizenship. They learn about opinions, they learn about developing opinions, they learn about fundamental rights and freedoms as well. So within that context, they do learn about free speech as being a fundamental right and principle, not just of all Canadians, but I would argue as a foundation to any democratic society.
And as a follow-up, Minister, so DEI, or diversity, equity, inclusion, has proven to be a divisive issue for many parents and educators, given it pits Albertans against each other on the grounds of ethnicity, religion, and sexual orientation. In combating hate, will your government be deploying an anti-racism model? And if so, what will that look like?
So the government is absolutely focused on addressing racism and combating racism, and the curriculum, the elementary curriculum for social studies will focus on that. If memory serves me correct, both in grades 3 and in 6, very specifically talks about racism, what it is, what it looks like, and the forms that it takes, and what can be done to combat it. No Albertan should live in fear of racism, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to learn what racism looks like and to make sure that our children understand it and are actively working to stamp it out.
Right, that concludes all the time that we have today. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all.